Already losing my voice. Alright guys, I'm going to do a topic that I've talked about before. I'm going to talk about what is optimal in a game because I don't feel like I've ever, back when I played video games a little bit more when I was a kid, when I was still going to these tournaments, it wasn't like before how every 5 seconds everyone was calling everything optimal, even though it wasn't. You know, it's this it's the star quarterback, a Jimmy syndrome. Everyone has to believe that they're the best in the game, so everything they do is optimal, even when it isn't. I know my chair is extremely squeaky today. I don't know if the mic is picking it up, but anyway, I've talked about this topic before about what is actually optimal in a video game. And I'm going to show some examples using Guilty Gear versus Dragon Ball FighterZ, I guess. So I'll probably just, I'm kind of, I can't even see the screen because I have this weird webcam right here. So while I talk about this, I'm going to do some combos. I'll just reset it and re-edit this because I'm sure I won't all get it in a row, right? So I just want to show some examples of a game like Guilty Gear, if we're thinking about optimally speaking. It's not as cut and dry, which is strange when you think about a game like Dragon Ball FighterZ, because Dragon Ball FighterZ is a game that doesn't have a lot of variables. It's really just kind of like, how much damage does it do? Does it give you a sliding knockdown, basically? And like, how much meter, basically? You know what I mean? Like, in terms of the English word for max or optimal, there's not a lot of variables. I mean, it is what it is in Dragon Ball FighterZ, right? So how anyone can get that word wrong so many times, I don't understand. But let's look at a game like Guilty Gear where what is optimal might be a little bit more ambiguous. All right, let's start. Okay, so let's start showing a few different examples of Kai doing a mid-screen B&B, the impossible B&B that I use when I play the game, right? Cannot see the screen. I don't know how the fuck I'm going to do this without being able to see the screen properly. So there's one. Okay, that's two. I can't see the screen. This is the most ridiculous fucking thing I've ever done in this game. So I cannot believe I'm filming this when I can't see the screen. So if we're to look at those three combos, I think one was 169, one was 171, one was 174. Three sort of ideas, and the one that did the most, and only 5 points of difference, right? And even if we like crank the guard meter up all the way, it only does maybe 10 points difference, 15 points difference. It's very minuscule. You know what I mean? So when we're talking about optimal, and even then, something in Guilty Gear, if we're thinking the most damaging one did this, so we don't get as good as setups. I mean, from this, we could do all crazy stuff. We could do, so many different gimmicks, versatile character. We could even do the double big blue setup that I showed, you know what I mean? Tons of different stuff, right? So if we're thinking if you could do a double big blue or even a single big blue, isn't that 3 points of block damage that just added up to that slide right there? You know what I mean? That did like a few points more damage, you know what I mean? And even then we could think that technically there's like certain combos, if we were to do, what am I doing? If we were to do, we ended with one of these big combos, right? Blah, blah, blah. Then you get like, but then that offers up a different mix-up like that or something, right? So when you get into like a game like Guilty Gear, when talking about the game optimally, right? Guilty Gear is a game that has so many variables, and the damage becomes so minuscule for certain characters like Kai. Like Kai, they switched his damage buffer in this game with a lot of his moves. Like before in the regular AC, like say for his corner combos, like this was always no matter what the best thing, this kind of thing. But it's slightly not as good in the corner. Like it's still the most burst safe option in the corner, but the damage difference is not very much compared to other things, right? He does have this thing, you know what I mean, they can do as well. But in the grand scheme of games, and the thing of the game, the forward hard slash combos in the corner are not quite as ridiculously better if you could do them, right? And again, this is maybe with an asterisk mark because, again, I'm the only person that showed that it's humanly possible to use this as a BNB in the first place. But it is still, if we're thinking about the game optimally speaking, right? You know, mid-screen stuff, of course, like the forward hard slash stuff is still the best. Like, I know when I play the game, which is very rarely, you know, like orb shit is just there if you're doing a BNB and you like, you know, you're like, ah, fuck, I kind of fucked up the timing for the delay. And I better do that. Or I better do just a regular one. Like, yeah, that's just like when you fuck up. There's no, like, as long as it works, and there's only, you know, a few characters it doesn't work on, there's no reason to not do these things, right? Like, let me show an example, right? So, I mean, look how much damage that did. That was 169 right there. And that's like burst safe because you're just doing this, right? You know what I mean? That's way better than orb shit. Way better than, you know, going for like a mid-screen thing. And you can't even do that, say a couple forward hard slashes into that, then maybe do a lightsaber, then do a DP, then even the mid-screen DP thing for slightly less damage, right? But the point is, even from that, if we're thinking about the game optimally speaking, well, there's variables there as well, right? We didn't have to do this, you know, we didn't have to do lightning strike there, right? And technically, if we wanted to be extremely anal, after the DP, instead of lightning strike, since we're only doing 1 damage anyway, technically, optimally speaking, max damage, we could have been like, whatever. Technically, that would have been better, right? Or we could have done, instead of the DP for the mid-screen for going for these kind of shenanigans, we could have just, you know, we would have just done boom, boom to get them more to the corner than that, right? So there's a lot of variables and the damage is so almost exactly the same, right? We're talking about like minuscule points of difference, right? So when you're thinking about the game optimally speaking, you know, there's more variables. And here, let me show you like even another example for like a mid-screen one, right? Because a lot of times mid-screen stuff, you know, you have all this kind of like, you know, boom, boom, that kind of shit. You have boom, you know, empty low stuff. You have like, you know, dust shenanigans. But here's something that isn't used as much as well. And this is just, I don't want to go like super in-depth, right? But watch this. So there's another example. So, you know, obviously normally that's something that's not used as much as well. You know, Kai has a lot of that behind the back lightsaber, but depending on how heavy the character is at the time of the combo, you can actually dash like this. So if I just do, if you try to run and hold, see if I try to run and duck, it takes me a while to duck. So the character will not bounce over my body. But if you run FD dash like that and you block like that, the character's body can go underneath you. Then, since the character is facing the wrong way, different attacks will now cross up, besides you being on a different side, right? It affects the way FD works if the character is not facing the regular way when they wake up as normal, all that kind of shit, right? So then, again, that was another thing I said. We have, like, weight comes into play, right? Because if I was talking about this, you know, this a simple mid-screen thing like I was showing that I use as like a BNB, right? So I showed like the lightsaber one and all this other kind of stuff. There's actually even a slightly more optimal English is hard, optimal version where you can actually add in another kind of forward hard slash into a thing and then forward kick. But the problem is with that, if the character is too heavy, this could fuck up some of the setups because the character is so heavy, they will actually get up sooner, right? Do you know what I mean? And then some of these, like, you know, more complicated double big blue setups don't work the same, you know, more different kind of shenanigans, whatever. But then you have stuff like weight comes into play. So again, Guilty Gear just has, because a lot of times when you're going for max damage is so literally pixels, as you can see. What is optimal in a game like Guilty Gear becomes a little bit more vague. That's why I've always You know, that's why before, you know, I'd always say, like, when I make these videos for various games, I'd say, like, aiming for max damage. You know, I didn't always use the word, like, optimal, because what is optimal? The game is, there's so many different kind of setups you can do. And, of course, optimally speaking, you know, this forward hard slash stuff is optimal, right? Because it's the most burst safe thing. You know what I mean? There's just so many different tricks you can do with it. If you can time it, it's optimal, right? So the idea of that is optimal, and that's one of the reasons that Guilty Gear got boring for me. Because I'm like, I don't even play this game anymore, and like, why can't other people do this? This is ridiculous, right? You know, again, to this day, I'm still the only person that I know that's ever been able to use that as a B&B in a match. And like I said, it was still a year before someone even ever did it in a combo video. You know what I mean? That was like another thing, like even Soul. Remember how long it was before the Japanese even started doing all those some optimal combos I used with Soul? I was like, dude, these are optimal combos with Soul. And people were like, no one could ever do this, right? And geez, I don't remember how long it was before people started doing those Soul combos, but it was a long time. And still, in this game, I never saw anyone get to the point where they showed, if anyone is old enough to remember, I showed a way that you can actually make your attacks off-the-groundable techable. So the character can't tech anymore, right? You can actually set that up so the character can no longer tech, right? Pretty cool. Another awesome thing that I found in video games, but the game just never evolved to that level to get to use that. But anyway, the point is, for a game like Guilty Gear, there's so many variables. What is optimal is a little bit more potentially hazy, right? Like, certainly, again, you know, people doing orb shit, you know, mid-screen. A lot of combos do, like, that's not, like, get the fuck out of here, right? Like, don't even start with that kind of bullshit, right? I've showed you can do this stuff in real matches, but point being, what is optimal and what isn't is slightly potentially more hazy, right? Because look at the pixels of different damage, right? So a lot of times it's like, well, what setup am I going for? How is this going to affect the weight of the character? Because certain setups are going to be different. You know what I mean? There's so many different variables. But a game like Dragon Ball FighterZ does not have those variables. That's why it's so fucking weird and creepy to me when everyone names every fucking combo they do in Dragon Ball FighterZ. This is the max damage combo. This is the optimal combo. And it's like, dude, there's only so many variables in this game. Like, I mean, I can understand if you're saying the combo is hard. Like, okay, dude, okay, dude, cool. I can dig it, dude. Some combos are harder than others. But to name every fucking single combo optimal or max damage is so fucking weird and creepy. And the whole Jimmy, everyone has to be the star quarterback of the game. It's fucking creepy as hell. It's fucking weird, dude. And it's very misleading. And it's not even close. Like, again, we're talking about, when I'm showing, like, optimal max damage combos in this game, like, there's very few combos. Like, dude, you got different... Dude, it's a lot of times, it's fucking pixels. And it's like, a lot of times you're just going like, well, what setup am I going for, right? Dragon Ball FighterZ, I have fucking creepy people trying to say what I do is not optimal or max damage, when I'm doing stuff that it does like 500 points more damage than what other people are doing. Like, dude, I can understand, again, a combo might be harder, but what is the variable for you saying your combo is optimal? Just, it's not, you're not using the English word even correctly anymore, dude. We're not talking about pixels worth of damage, dude. Dude, there's only so many variables in Dragon Ball FighterZ, dude. And your variable is nothing, dude. Like, it's just, so, I'm doing such extraordinarily amount more damage. It's not even close. Like, just, I don't know, it's really fucking creepy, dude. And it just shows, like, how big of babies people are in video games, that they always have to feel like I automatically did the best thing, even if you did it. You know what I mean? And I should say, for what it's worth, that's to say, when I do play this game, there are definitely times that I'm not like jacking myself off totally, because of course, you know, I do go for this stuff. And you know what, dude? I do miss it sometimes. I've said before, you know, I've had times where I've missed it quite a bit, but I've also had times where I've hit it 75% of the time I go for it in matches, and I don't even play the game. You know what I mean? And there's other things too I could say if people are wondering. You know, I never played this game enough to do all those more crazy kind of loops that I've showed are possible, like that way. You know what I mean? Like, I don't always get that. Like, I forget what it is half the time when I play, but I've also showed big blue stuff in real matches that is very tight. You know, so I'm not saying that I optimize everything when I play a game, but if I were to be playing the game and I didn't do the optimal stuff, I wouldn't say it's optimal, because it would be a lie. I'm secure enough to say that, right? You know what I mean? I don't know. Hope you get what I'm saying. I just feel it's so fucking weird to me, dude. But I think Guilty Gear is a good example to show, like, Guilty Gear is a game with a lot of variables, okay? What is optimal and what isn't in here? Again, there's ideas of what it is, but sometimes it can be hazy. But in a game like Dragon Ball FighterZ, there's nothing to be hazy about, dude. It's completely obvious, right? Do you get what I'm saying? Anyway, the end, I guess.